Welcome to the January 22nd, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
And we have Lotus Prince back again, for those of you that didn't noticed. You have a mustache.
I know.
It's like his evil
maybe
twin.
My favorite joke in the whole movie.
It is quite good. If you ask me, best of that series is Hot Fuzz.
I love Hot Fuzz.
I haven't seen
I like
World's
all of
End, but Hot Fuzz is like possibly my favorite comedy of all time.
I remember I was watching that the first time in college, and that one scene where he drop kicks that grandma.
Oh, I was dying.
I had to watch that. I rewinded it. I had to watch it a couple more times because I'm like, did this really happen? This is hilarious.
I saw it in the theater and I was dying.
Oh, I saw the trailers on TV and they made the movie look terrible. So like Luminaire had to convince me to watch it, and then when I did, I was like, wow, I was missing out.
Not only that, but the movie gets better more times you watch it, and that's
everything
not
is
always
done
the
in
same thing
twos,
for.
So yeah, you'll hear things at the beginning of the movie where you're like, oh.
I'm a slasher.
Yeah, I'm a slasher of prices. Catch me later.
Catch me later.
It's amazing.
I love it. But it's quite. With comedies, it's not always the case. You know, you see it the second time, it's just as funny. You know, that kind of thing. You know, once it's expected.
Oh,
but
there's stuff
that
that's
movie
set up
has
that
like
you didn't know was a setup.
Yeah, it has like an extra level of humor that you didn't expect, which is real ace. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about this week. Lot. So a lot of stuff happened, just like drama-wise on the internet. So I do want to talk about. I want to give enough time to talk
drama
about
on the internet. Never.
Yeah, but like it's like unusually drama-heavy this week. So the first thing I did want to talk about here is I wanted to give Lotus Prince an opportunity to talk about AGDQ because we did talk about that last week in that he probably had the lowdown on the best parts.
I think he's more into it. Not into it, but he definitely watches it more often than the other two of us.
You're just better at distilling it than I would ever be, and you're good at picking out the good stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened this time?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I would say the stuff that really stood out to me were either games I hadn't seen before or unique takes on games. For example, I've said repeatedly on this podcast that some of my favorite things to watch are 100% runs of Banjo-Kazooie or Mario Sunshine because it's just really good gameplay the whole way through, and there's so much movement tech that it's just really entertaining to watch the game.
That's why I like Splatoon, because
Splatoon's
there's so
really
much
good to watch. Yeah, and they did Splatoon,
so much fun with the physics.
Yeah, they did Splatoon 2, the I forgot what it's called, but the Octo Kid expansion where you play as the octopus people.
I think it's just called like the Octopus expansion or something like that.
Okay, yeah, so that was really fun to watch. It was done by the same guy who had done Splatoon 1 and 2 in previous GDQs. That guy is a freaking beast of a player.
He's a monster,
Tones Ballones. But I've mentioned I really like Super Mario Sunshine, but this time there was a different take on Mario Sunshine where they had a Mario Sunshine bingo where it was whoever reaches... It wasn't getting a row. That's way too hard to pull off and probably impossible against a competitor, but they had two people playing Mario Sunshine and they had tasks to do, like
neat.
Who can get 10 giant sprites in Delfino Plaza, the hub world, first, and whoever gets it first checks off the square. And then,
I like that. It's like a competition then.
Exactly.
That's
so
cool.
but this isn't just beating the game first. This is like whoever does these tasks first. The interesting thing, though, was that the players had a divider between them, so there was no screen looking. So if you're going for a goal and the other person gets it first, then you've wasted your time. So so they were doing different routes because it was also a psychological game. Like, I don't think this person would go for this task, so I'm gonna try going for that and hope that he doesn't beat me to it, and like hope that I guessed right. So
wait, how does that even work? Because like it's a one-player game.
Well, no, they're each playing their own copy.
I think they're each playing.
They're each playing their own copy of the game.
Oh,
and I guess they were started at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. They had a divider between them. There were 2 TVs, and they were both playing at the same time, and they were trying to accomplish.
So they didn't know whether they were wasting their time or not.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, when they complete a task, they'll check off a box on a bingo board that both players can see, and then it's like, oh, I'd better abandon this task because that other person did it. So it was really interesting to see it go down, and how people would alter their routes based on what other people were doing, or not have to based on, oh, good, they were going for something I didn't care about, that kind of thing.
You know, when I hear about, I mean, I don't really watch a lot of awesome games done quick, but when I hear about all this, I'm surprised this isn't more of like an esport kind of thing. Like, it doesn't get the same sort of attention as esports because...
Oh, I gotcha. Like speedrunning in general?
Because I could see this being... Like, I mean, granted, they'd have to have... I don't know, like, what rules are in place for awesome games done quick, other than, like, the typical...
Well, it's just speedrunning. That's all it is. I mean, like, speedrunning is kind of a competition in general, but, like, I mean, they do have esport-style stuff sometimes where it is what we thought it was earlier, where it's 2 people or 3 or 4 even playing the same game and just who gets to the end credits first. That is a thing. But
even like this thing that you talked about with like these challenges.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they don't do this more often and have this be like an esport.
Yeah, I think
I want them to be creative with how video games become more mainstream and not just the same thing where it's only competitive games. Like, there's a way that you can make single player games competitive.
That is true, although I mean, I guess if you're not going for world record or something, like, I could see this being an esport in terms of, like, let's just see who can do this first. The only thing with games done quick in particular is that these people are speedrunners, so they dedicate insane amounts of time to one particular game. So this isn't like Evo, where anyone can join, but probably the best people will win. It's like... I mean, I suppose it could be, though. There's no reason you couldn't do a casual competition with somebody else.
But I'm even saying, if you compare it to like sports, there are people who dedicate their lives to getting better at football.
That is
Why
true.
can't someone dedicate their lives getting better to Mario 64 so they can do this challenge?
No, that's true.
Thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I suppose this could be more like tournament style as opposed to like speedrun for charity in this one particular event in the year style.
You know, the only thing that I see that might be an issue with it is that a lot of these run on like breaking parts of the game, and a lot of times with for esports to get really big, you need an official sponsorship of the companies that that make them. So they might not all companies might feel good about that, but
that's why I'd say they'd have to have like some more rules as what is and isn't allowed, and have to be really clear on what it is.
I can get down with that. What I was actually thinking though is I think we have a good idea coming off of that idea, in that you can make a game that would have a mode like this in mind. That would officially allow you to do it like this. You know, like, let's say if it was included in a game like Super Mario Universe, or the newest one. I'm sorry. Odyssey. I'm sorry. Odyssey. You know, have that have a mode like this, since it's really a game that is kind of like a service anyway. They've added a lot of stuff recently. Why not add a mode where you can even compete online like that, you know, and you know, do it like that, or have certain limitations. That should be pretty easy to implement too. So perhaps, I think that would be a really cool thing to do an esports thing, based off of an official mode,
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, what else
other crazy
was
stuff?
good?
Probably one of my favorite runs to watch, partly because of just like the runner was really fun, but this was a game I never heard of because I'm generally not familiar with the Game Boy, any of them, like the library, because I just didn't touch those systems like ever. So there was this game called have you ever heard of this, Urban Yeti?
Yeah, so it's a very obscure GBA game.
It is the goofiest shit ever.
And it was only released in certain territories. It's very rare.
It is weird.
And it's a very odd game. I learned about it from Hardcore Gaming 101. Kirk Collada wrote an article about it because it's a very odd game too. So he had an article about it even way back when it had been pretty new.
Yeah, the thing is, like, this
has
is
a lot of mini games, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
It's kind of like a like the original GTA style. Like it's above.
It looks like that when you're running
overhead.
Around. The thing with this game is, I could see it being released on Steam or something today, but like it is so weird to imagine that you could pick this up off of a store shelf back in the day. Like, this game is
who would have bought
bizarre.
it? Yeah.
Like, the idea is Yetis just live among us, I guess. And I don't know how many.
I guess.
Yeah, like I mean, like you don't. You're not disguised or anything, and you're not even like the BS Ninja Turtles trench coat disguise. You're just kind of a Yeti walking around in town, and people.
And nobody reacts to you as such, right?
Well, no, like cops might come after you, or some people might run away, but like, I don't know. The universe is weird anyway, and the thing is, you're looking for like a girlfriend Yeti, but the way you make this happen is like nothing makes sense. So like one of the first things is you're interested in getting a girlfriend at some point, but like the funny thing is whenever you have a task to do, this is a Game Boy Advance game, so like we're not talking 2019 here. So when you have a goal to do or when you accomplish a goal, it goes to like a text screen of like, this is what you need to do next, but there's this like Yeti face, just like this green Yeti face behind the text. And just whenever it popped up during the run, the crowd would go, ah! Because it's, like, kind of scary looking. And it got, like, progressively funnier as it went because it's kind of scary, but that wasn't the point. It's just like, ah! Whenever a text screen would show up, it was really funny. But, like, you would have some dumb shit to do. Like, you find this, like, other Yeti in some alley, and he starts fighting you, so you have to beat him up. But then when you beat him up, he, like, jumps on the back of a car and, like, drives away, and the idea was he was supposed to escape, so you have to meet him to do your first minigame. But when the guy was doing the speed run, I guess the traffic in the game is somewhat random, so the bad guy Yeti in the back of the car just got into a car accident and just hit some other car and like didn't advance the game. The game just like soft locked, and the guy's like, oh, he got into a car accident, how weird. And then like nothing happened, and he's like, it's supposed to change. I'm supposed to regain control like now, and like he had to like reset the game and put in a password. It was the funniest shit.
Is funny.
But the thing is, even when you do play the game properly, but even when the game does play properly, the Yeti's supposed to escape on a car, and he's like, "You think you're so good? Let's see you beat me in a local discus tournament." It's like, what the fuck? So you like enter like an arena, and you're just playing discus. Like, all right, and then there's a later mini game where you're going down an inner tube, and I don't even remember why, and you're just surviving your trip down a river, and it has the worst music ever, and it's fucking hilarious, because it's just like, what were they thinking? It's just this weird, like, someone on the couch called it, like, trombone nightmare. It's really funny.
We're gonna have to break out this one next time we hang out. I have an EverDrive for the GBA. We should break this out.
I was gonna say, do you have a record of this?
Yeah. It's so funny. And, so, like, that's how that game goes. Like, it's just the weirdest thing. And then some other runs that were fun to watch were Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. That run is usually fun to watch anyway, just because it does use a lot of glitches, but it's just fun to watch the runner play it, because there's still a lot of crazy stuff you have to do. And the commentary and couch commentary were really good. Like, these guys synced up really well and made for a very entertaining commentary with little to no dead space. There was... This is for, I believe...
Dead Space wasn't there?
Dead Space was not there. There was I believe this is the second time they tried this, but there was a Super Metroid reverse boss order run. That is not easy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, fighting Ridley is the absolute worst because you don't have your Varia suit, so...
He just wrecks you.
You're just... Yeah. Well, yeah, not only do you not have defense, but you're in, like, hot land, whatever it's called, and you're just steadily losing health throughout the entire fight.
So not only do you have to not get hit at all by him, you have to, like... You also have to do it quick.
Yeah, and
with a
even
really
when you,
shitty
and even when you beat him,
weapon.
You have to give it a couple of beats before, when you beat a boss, all the health and ammo drops. So when you kill Ridley, you're like, come on, and then like you have to get the power-ups and like run into the next room and save and heal. It's just like, so even when they beat Ridley, they're like, wait, it's not over yet, and they have to like run to the save point as fast as possible. The moment you finish that area, though, the game gets way easier because you're doing things backwards, so you have weird stuff you shouldn't have yet because you went the hard way.
Also, Ridley is the hardest boss in the game, so...
Ridley sucks. It's kind of like...
This makes me... Mm-hmm. No, you can finish, and then
I was just going to say, it's kind of like doing Dark Souls, the catacombs first. It's the skeletons are way too hard for you at that early stage of the game, but if for some reason you do beat that first, then you get the thing that lets you charge up bonfires to like plus 20, which can make other parts of the game way more palatable than the usual plus 10 at max.
Yeah, I was going to say, this makes me think of plug a little bit. I've been playing Breath of the Wild, and as I'm playing it, I think about the people who just go right to fight Ganon right away, and I'm like, I can barely even
you can
go to like the tough areas right away, let alone fight the final boss immediately.
I really
not
like
only that, but you don't get like the in-canon satisfaction of having your friends help you because you haven't saved them.
Right,
so.
and like I'm just about to get the Master Sword, and like I can't imagine like not getting that. So
people like fight him with like just like a stick.
Oh yeah, I love stuff like that. Like I love the little like joke fights, like in Link to the Past, like deflecting Aghanim's blasts with like the butterfly net because the bug catching net, because you can do that. Even in Twilight Princess, there's nothing to deflect when you're fighting Ganondorf with his swords, but like if you have, I think it's the fishing rod or maybe the bug catching net, he kind of like looks at it like and just gets like distracted by it, and it's really weird. Although actually, speaking of Link to the Past, this was insane. Somebody did a speedrun of that game where he had gotten some modded or hacked copy of the game where if you get hit, you die.
Oh, wow.
Just like by anything. So heart containers are irrelevant. Like you must. I think it's one of the only Zelda games, if not the only one, where you absolutely have to pick up the heart container when you beat a boss to leave the dungeon, but it doesn't matter. Like, one hit kills. So there were a bunch of rooms where it would be like, oh, normally I would damage boost through this room because I want to get to the exit more quickly, but like, nope, anything kills me. So the guy was really good, though. He died, I think, like under 10 times, which is insane. So it was a really entertaining run to watch.
That's great. That's great. Well, did you have any last really good ones? That
actually, there is one more run I want to shout out. Well, two runs, but one will be quick. One of them is Wind Waker. They've done Wind Waker before, but this guy was actually doing a 100% run of Wind Waker, which is fucking ridiculous at a marathon. So, like, this was not getting every figurine. This was getting everything on your item menu. So all hearts, all regular items and stuff like that. That's insane. Like, some of those heart containers are really frustrating to get. So that run was like a little over 6 hours, I think. And remember, 6 hours for 100% in Wind Waker is fucking crazy. That's no time at all. And the other run I want to shout out, I did not watch this one, but 3 players played this one. They swapped from 1 to 2 to 3 as the game went on. Final Fantasy IX. They beat the game in something like, I think it might have actually been like around 9 hours. That is a brutal run to watch in terms of just having time to watch it. But at the same time, I didn't see the run, but I saw comments, and this impressed me. Usually speedrunners gloss over the story because that's not the point of the run. They're usually describing what they have to do to make certain things happen. So sometimes you'll get slight bits of context. Like in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, oh yeah, well now we're mad at this guy who's been paying us because he's been withholding money. So, oops, we killed him and now we have his mansion. So like, real quick stuff like that. But usually the story does not much matter. But apparently in Final Fantasy IX, these people were really going into the story and the significance of certain events and what was going on. So they're actually giving you like context for what's happening in the game. Because a bunch of runners say that they honestly forgot how to play the game for real because they've been speedrunning it for so long, and some of them have forgotten aspects of the story. But apparently these FF9 guys are, like, super passionate about Final Fantasy IX, like, the game itself, outside of the context of just playing it, and they're going all into it. So I actually am going to want to watch that run.
That's cool.
Pieces at a
Real
time.
Cool. Yeah. Nice. Well, definitely give us an update on that, as the weeks progress, once you have a moment to watch it all.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the next thing that we want to talk about here is this is something that is relevant to most of our interests, I think, here, and a lot of our fans, but the Trails of Cold Steel 3 was finally announced, for English-speaking territories.
Yeah, that was something we weren't sure if we would get, like Trails of the Sky 3.
I feel like it's been like that for every single game that we weren't sure if we were going to get it, though.
Yeah.
Well, we were sure if we were going to get Trails of Cold Steel 2. That wasn't really much of a question.
Cold Steel 1 was sold with a box that would hold 2 when it came out.
Exactly. But 3 and now 4, they're both out in Japan, and 3's been out for a long time at this point. I think it's been 2 or 3 years. So it's been a long time, and there hasn't been any any action on it. You know what I mean? So no people were really worried about it. So there's a lot of drama surrounding this, but I'll try to sift through it. So one of the things that is going to be different about it is that Nippon Ichi are going to be the ones that are localizing 3 and most likely 4.
Oh, so not Xseed then.
Correct. And all of the Trails games up until this point have been localized by Xseed. Mm-hmm. So Nippon Ichi has done one Falcom game before, and it went the worst way possible.
Was that Ys 7?
It was Ys 7, or Ys 8, actually.
I heard all about that, yeah.
So just a recap for people that don't know about it, but it was a fucking disaster. So what ended up happening was they released the game on PS4, and it had one of the worst localizations of all time.
Wasn't there stuff where the text wasn't even like arranged properly on the screen and really insane stuff like that? It
was bad technically and badly translated.
Which, I mean, I'm not a huge Nippon Ichi fan, but that's still kind of surprising for them because they usually put a decent amount of work into localization.
They're not spring chickens. They've been around ever since Disgaea came out. So
PS2, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really
even
really
earlier,
surprising.
Right? They did Rhapsody, didn't they?
They did. I don't know how old they are, but they've been doing it for a long time.
Well, Nippon Ichi as Nisa has only been around since Disgaea. They had La Pucelle and the other one before that,
Rhapsody,
the one you
right?
just
Rhapsody,
but they didn't do the translating. They didn't. They didn't.
Okay.
I'm talking about their in-house translation.
All right,
arm.
sorry, I just picture Disgaea and Makai Kingdom and La Pucelle as the Nippon Ichi universe.
Yeah, I'm talking about Nippon Ichi America,
okay.
or NISA for short. But they handled it in the worst way possible, but they also came back and fixed it, which is much appreciated, but were bad about communicating during it.
Yeah.
Now the game is in a very good state. This is Ys 8 I'm talking about. Now the game is in a very good state. It's good to buy it on the PS4 or Switch. The PC version is marginal, but it's not terrible. But when the PC version first released, there were a lot of technical issues with that as well, in addition to the localization issues.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of with the text wrapping and stuff.
Yeah, the PC version was something that they made because I don't think the PC version exists in Japan, so they were porting it over. So there's a lot of work that they had to do in order to make sure that it worked on that platform. But unfortunately, there was a lot of stuff botched in the process. So a lot of people are upset because the Trails series has a really nice devoted fan base, and Falcom games in general as well. And Xseed has handled all the releases very, very, very well. And there are a few high-profile people that have worked on them. Tom Limpschultz and Brittany. What's Brittany's last name?
Didn't they both leave Xseed though?
Yes. So that's part of the point of what I'm making here.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's
Brittany
why there was
Avery.
a little bit of drama because, and I have a feeling I think Tom was probably. I mean, I don't know Tom. I know you know better than I do, but he was probably the one pushing to translate all the Legend of Heroes games. And now that he's gone, I don't think they have any want to do it.
What had happened was they got outbid on Ease 8. Nisa paid Falcom more money, so they won that bid, and they probably did a package deal with 3, Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4. Now here's the good news. Nisa hired Brittany Avery from Xseed to work on 3 and 4.
Yeah, because the thing was, I don't know how much actual translation Tom Lipschultz did for, because he's not the translator guy for every single game.
He's only on it on some of them.
Yeah, I
the
know
original
Corpse Party. Yeah, Corpse Party, for example, was his baby, but I thought Trails was more of a Brittany thing.
It was, but he was the producer on it, that kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
There are 3 key staff from Xseed that are moving over to work on this with Nisa. So it is Moe Takahashi and Eric Budenciak, I believe is what their names are. So these people all worked on the previous ones, so you can expect a good transition to these games, and a consistent translation. So sometimes what happens when these kinds of games move from one company to another, they translate the same word differently.
That's the thing. This is something, if you just kind of have to get a feel for it, but certain translators have their quirks. Again, I have no idea how Trails is translated, but I mean, I've played the hell out of the Corpse Party games that were localized, and I know, and Vice, you already know from other games like Ease, that Tom Lipschultz likes to throw in an occasional pop culture reference if he can get away with it. Not to the point where it's distracting, but
it's not as bad as Working Designs used to be back in the day.
Yeah, I know, I watched Old Man Stompy's playthrough of Alundra, and they had some stuff that wasn't even close to what was originally intended. But Tom Lipschultz will he'll throw in a wink. For example, there's a part in Corpse Party where there's a flashback where people were at a dance and they threw their hands in the air, and Tom Lipschultz put in parentheses, we just didn't care. And it's that is pretty much what they meant, so I'll take it, that kind of thing. So now, for example, if the Trails games move to another company, then if you were familiar with that kind of thing in the original Trails games, you might not see it in the later ones. Now, again, I don't know if Tom Lipschultz was actually translating the Trails games, but you know what I mean. Whoever was, and it might you might see a little bit of a change to whoever's translating it now.
Yeah. So, the big takeaway from this is that the people that are worried about this because of the previous one, I don't think it's very well-founded. The people that are working on it are very, very good. Not only that, but they are very familiar with the series, and they love it. So I'm confident in this release. I'm not so confident on a consistent maybe PC release if they end up doing that eventually. But that's okay. I think I'm okay with it being a really good version on PS4.
Are you saying you're not sure if they're going to release it on PC or
they haven't announced a PC port yet?
I mean, that does say something, but also I feel like Nippon Ichi has been releasing a lot of their games on PC lately, so
it'll probably be an eventual kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Trails of the Sky was released on PC in all
three
parts,
of them.
But Cold Steel, I don't think ever, like even in 1 and 2, I don't think they got a PC release.
They did. Recently, they did.
Recently.
When the PS4 version came, when the PS4 version of 1 and 2 came out, it released on Steam as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I take it back then.
So, they will probably release it, but later, and only going to be there for people who refuse to buy a console. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
My takeaway is I think it's going to be good. I don't like all the people putting them down. They really did handle the last release poorly. I will give them that, but they also manned up, or stepped up, I should say. I don't like man up. Stepped up and fixed it, which you don't always get it.
And not to mention, we've played a lot of Nisa games before, and they have solid translations. Like, what do you want? Yeah. Like, Ys 8 was terrible, but that's like one game. That was like,
right. Most of the games,
like a flop. A flub.
Most of the games that I've played that they've translated have seemed fine, but like it's hard to say when you don't know. Well,
that's
language,
true, but I mean, I'm talking about like this obviously, this doesn't obviously look like crap. Like I mean, like Danganronpa, I believe, was Nisa, and like Yomawari, and like works for me, and like all the Disgaea games. Again, I don't know about accuracy to Japanese. I don't know what they said in Japanese, but I mean,
they're well known for
those games came out great.
Yeah.
But it sounds good in English, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those games even retained their humor when they came over. So, I'm like I said, I'm not worried. But there's a lot of drama online about like people going, oh, you guys are garbage. I wish Xseed was still doing it. It's not Xseed's. I mean, it sucks that Xseed isn't doing it anymore because they have a really good track record. I'll put out that, but I'm optimistic with this, and looks like they're putting out a really nice special edition as well. So if you're into those kinds of things, and sometimes I am with Falcom games.
Yeah, that actually is interesting, by the way, because like Xseed in particular loves their special editions. So it's interesting to see that Nisa is picking up and running with it. Although to be fair, though, I believe the Nisa like online store has a bunch of special editions for a bunch of other games, but it's still nice to see that they're continuing the trend with Trails.
Sure, and I believe this means that 4 will be coming as well, and they haven't officially announced 4, but I can't imagine that they didn't do it as a package deal, especially considering the time frame of them doing these releases, and this will be released in the fall of this year, so we could look forward to that. Also, they probably have been working on it for a long time at this point, because somebody released a analysis of the data in it, and apparently it has almost 3 times as much dialogue and text as with The Witcher 3, which is kind of hard to believe.
Yeah,
but
those games have a lot of dialogue.
Nutty with the volumes of. Like we're lucky that we're getting this at all, because like and I know that we may be saying that pretty frequently, but especially this, because the amount of
Trails of the Sky 3, it's like, wait,
if there was a fan translation group trying to do this, it would take them 10 years. It would take them 10 years of their spare time, and I'm pretty confident of that. There are games that have taken almost as long that aren't nearly this big. It's probably the biggest localization effort ever. I'm gonna go out and say that. It's insane. And that's great that we're getting them, and it's going to be handled by people that care about it. So. That's all I really have to say about that, but I think it's great that we're getting it, and we're getting it the way we're getting it is one of the better ways. So let's see here. There was also a weird story that popped up on Kotaku today, as of Sunday, here on the 20th. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Machinima all of a sudden took down their entire YouTube channel.
Yeah, I heard about that, and like that threw a lot of people off because they have a ton of content on there.
Yeah, really odd stuff. They have since released a statement about it, which is good that they said something, but they didn't really answer much in that they consider that channel a legacy channel, and apparently they're going to be chopping up the content into multiple channels, which I don't think is so bad. That's probably for marketing purposes.
But I mean, like, as far as everyone knew, all of a sudden their channel just went black, and it's like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, that is weird.
Not only that, but they didn't tell any of the content creators, so they all of a sudden they were like, all my shit that I've been working on for 7 years is gone. All of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, usually if you're going to make a bunch of new channels, you announce it on your old channel. Like, hey guys, follow me for my side content here or whatever.
I'm also surprised that in this day and age, people still don't realize that communication is super important in anything.
Yeah.
And people are going to get super angry, and you're going to have a lot of bad press about the lack of communication. See, when we migrated the... this is on a much, much smaller scale, mind you. but when we migrated the podcast, from Lotus's channel to the Corrective channel, we gave people a lot of warning in a lot of different ways for a long time. We knew it was coming up, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose a lot of our base. And you know what? All the people that used to comment and on the old in the old comment section have transitioned over. All the dedicated fans made the transition, and there was no transition at all on the audio only cast, so there was no problem there. So it just really, why can't you just tell people you're doing this? Like, why are you being so stupid about it?
Well, like, even for selfish interests, like, how are they going to follow you if they don't know what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, why not advertise, do a soft launch of it, where you have overlap like we did. We had overlap for a while too. And you still make trailers to get people to come over.
What's a trailer?
It happens at the end of the movie.
I know, that's why they're called trailers. And now they never come at the end of a movie because everyone leaves and the movie's over.
I think the initial reason why they did it that way is because of double headers. Like, they happened at the end of the first movie, and then this, it was in between the second movie.
And now the incentive is to come into the movie. Well, now the incentive is to come into the movie theater 25 minutes late, so all those fucking long-ass trailers will be over by the time your actual movie's supposed to start.
I like the trailers.
They are kind of fun, but it just pisses me
too.
off when it's like, movie starts at 6 o'clock. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think it's weird, but I hope they resolve this and don't screw a whole bunch of people over. Who knows with a big company running things like that. But Machinima is very popular, so I don't think it was like anybody going bankrupt or anything like that. I think it's just a Suits decision kind of thing. But anyway, I think Machinima is owned by a big company, like Fox or something, something weird like that. So, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But yeah. Lotus, did you want to handle this one? There's a Twitch charity thing going on right now,
this was really interesting. So the creator of, I believe it's the IT Crowd.
That show's awesome.
Yeah, well, the creator, Graham. I don't like it. This is embarrassing. Linehan? Do you know the
Linehan, probably.
Linehan. So apparently, in this organization, it's called Mermaids. It's this organization to support trans people. They had apparently gotten an award, like a fund, from the National Lottery, and Graham Linehan, according to the article I'm reading, urged people to oppose this because the charity was, quote, pushing an extreme ideological agenda, and he actually succeeded, so they didn't get that funding.
Wow.
So, yeah, so the guy's a piece of shit. So,
that's awful.
So this prominent like online personality HBomberguy, like a super popular YouTuber, just for spite, and he said it out loud, like he's doing this for spite. He set up a Twitch stream where he was going to do a 101%, get every single golden banana in the game of Donkey Kong 64. So he's like, fuck you, I'm going to do this Twitch stream and do what I can to raise money for this organization. And so far, like at the time we're recording this podcast, he's broken $250,000.
Oh, wow.
He's doing this in the UK, so like he's doing it for pounds. I don't know what the exact translation is for this, but it's American, it's $250,000, and he's still going. He's like
I think
52
like
or 53
1.2,
hours in.
something like that.
I was going to say 1 pound is about 16 ounces.
Oh, that okay. So he's raised a lot of ounces for charity.
It's something like 1.2, 1.3.
Yeah, but in any
US
case,
dollars.
he's raised $250,000 for charity. So even if the National Lottery is not going to give that organization their funding, HBomberguy is getting a ton of people to donate, and he's had really prominent people show up in his stream. He's gotten YouTubers like Linkara and Lindsay Ellis, but he's also gotten this is what really threw me off. He's gotten Mara Wilson. Mara Wilson, you may remember from our childhoods. She played the cute little girl in Mrs. Doubtfire, and she was she was Matilda in Matilda.
Sure.
So she showed up because she's super cool about that. And what also really threw me off is he actually got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the American politician who's been
nice.
kind of all over Twitter lately with how controversial she is by being a young person who wants good things to happen in government.
She's the youngest woman to ever be voted into Congress.
Yeah.
So she's House of Representatives for New York.
Yeah, so
Democrat.
she showed up in the Twitch stream. Really prominent celebrities have at least been shouting out the stream. I think like Neil Gaiman did, for example.
That's great.
So HBomber, like Grant Kirkhope, the composer for a lot of games from our childhood, including Donkey Kong 64 and GoldenEye 64. More recently, A Hat in Time, that released a couple years ago. Grant Kirkhope showed up. Like, HBomberguy is getting all the street cred right now. So, like,
that's awesome.
The thing is, this isn't just, like, a cool thing he's doing. Like, he's directly funding this charity that's going to help people in need. And again, to spite the piece of shit who actively tried to make this not happen because he's an asshole and for literally no other reason. So it's cool to see that that guy ironically gave us knowledge, because how many people would have heard of mermaids if not for this guy setting up this controversy?
This is really, really bad, because this guy is prominently known for more than a few sitcoms. Father Ted is a very popular sitcom in Europe.
And apparently this guy has had somewhat of a pretty cool personality too, but like all of a sudden he's just going against trans people for I don't know why.
You know what? There are lots of people that you'd be very surprised at that are
this is like the oldest thing in the world to say, but like, like never meet your heroes or don't learn too much about them.
Yeah.
So this is one of those. It turns out the guy's a transphobe for no reason, I guess.
There's even stuff going around about J.K. Rowling, and she's an ultra feminist.
That's been going on for a couple of years as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but, that's awful, because like a lot of people see her as a hero, especially a lot of young women.
Yeah.
But to exclude all of the trans women out there, in the things that she's talking about and fighting for is really hurtful to them. Very hurtful, and they need even more protections than cisgender people, because they have a whole set of other discriminatory issues that they have to deal with on top of that. So and not only that, but they get beat up and assaulted and murdered. For being who they are, and it's awful.
Yeah. So like the amusing thing is, because he's raised like $250,000, and even back when he was raising like $200,000, like the article that I was referring to in this podcast was from like a day ago, so it's talking about 200K, and now it's 250K, and by the time you hear this podcast, it'll be more than that. But what's funny is that people are like the hashtag is kind of trending, like thanks Graham, because like ironically he got this organization a lot of money indirectly. Like, again, like like I have not been watching HBomberguy for fucking 52 hours, but like when I did tune in, he was talking to someone who was like on the mic, and he said like, yeah, I did this 100% out of spite. I didn't think it would get this much traction and get this successful. Like, what's this? Good things are happening? No, I'm trying to be spiteful. So it was pretty amusing.
Yeah, I find it particularly bad that somebody who's a comedian is spurned all this because like or spun all this off because like comedians are the ones that are supposed to like wake us up to bad stuff
I see what
going
you're saying.
on. But like I get there's also probably a generational thing. Father Ted's an old sitcom at this point, so he's probably just grew up in a time, but I mean, come on.
Well, that's a lot of comedians though. Like, this is something where, like, I had heard on
this is actual hate. Like, how do you not realize that you're?
But this is something I'd heard on like a different podcast where like, you know how like Rodney Dangerfield and stuff like that. Like everybody was like, oh man, those guys are classic comedians. But like apparently, if you look up just like a bunch of like older comedian stuff, it's just like straight up racism, and it's like. Mm-hmm. I guess it was funny in the 70s. Like there's a lot of old comedy really has not aged well. Even movies we grew up with like in the 90s that we thought were hilarious. If you look back on it now, it's like I would not have done that.
Revenge of the Nerds is unwatchable.
Revenge of the Nerds, the guy just straight up rapes the bully's girlfriend and is a hero because of it.
And she marries him for it.
Did she actually?
Yeah.
I knew she was into him. I forgot that she married him. It's fucking ridiculous.
Well, in the sequels,
I haven't seen the sequels. Yeah. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then there's like Goldfinger, like the scene with Pussy Galore. It's like, all right, I don't. It's the 60s, I know, but.
I could go on and on about this, but punch up, folks, not down. Let's just make that a rule. If you're punching up, you're okay. If you're punching down, not.
Yeah, probably not.
You're
okay.
being a bully.
Yeah.
Anyway, donate to that if it's still available.
It's still available.
Okay,
again, while like we'll see what happens when the podcast airs. But as we are recording on Sunday, the stream is happening right now, and I'm sure you can still donate to the organization whenever you want anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So, keep that in the back of your head. This is a very worthy cause.
Yeah, again, it's called Mermaids. It's, I believe, a UK-based organization.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good. So I did want to talk about this since this was part of our spotlight on series that we wish we could get into. Mm-hmm. We talked a bit about Ace Combat 7 last week and the Ace Combat series in general, and they did some last minute bonuses for people that are buying the first run of Ace Combat 7, and this got really interesting. So. If you are buying the PS4 version, they will give you a code for a PS4 version of Ace Combat 5, which was a PS2 game.
Oh, nice.
And that's the only way to get it. So buy it as soon as you can. People were wondering whether this was going to be a pre-order only thing. It is not, but they say it runs until I think the middle of February or until supplies last. So definitely buy a PS4 version. Amazon had a bit of a kerfuffle in that they weren't communicating well with people who bought it, so they weren't sure whether they were getting their code or not. This is not on a slip of paper or anything. They have to give you the code.
Yeah.
So it turns out that they're emailing people the code.
Oh, okay. The thing with Ace Combat, like I know you're piloting fighter jets and stuff like that, but like you wouldn't know this from the game's box art, but isn't the plot of these games like super anime and like over the top and ridiculous?
And that's part of the appeal. So there is an intricate story in the series, but I'm sure this, for all intents and purposes, this is a really good game to jump in on. It's a good entry in the series, and I think they catch everybody up in an intro cinematic, that kind of thing, as to the warring countries and their dynamics. But not only that, but the gameplay's good, and there are a lot of features with this game. There's for the PS4 version, there's PSVR support, so it'll track your head movement.
I heard about that, yeah.
Which is really neat. And there are several joysticks in which are officially supported. There's a particular one made by Hori that has force feedback even for the PS4 version, at least, not the Xbox One version, unfortunately. But that's not even it. So if you order the PS1 version, it actually comes with a download code for Ace Combat 6, which was a 360 only game. So that's why it's like that. So what is good about this, though, is that it is not exclusive to this release. They put it as a backwards compatible game on the Xbox One. So what you can do is you could use your old Ace Combat 6 disc on your Xbox One, or you could buy it on their online shop, even if you don't buy Ace Combat 7.
That's super cool.
So in order to get all the games, of course, you have to have both systems or a 360, but it's still really neat. And I recommend that everybody get Ace Combat 7 for PS4 if you're thinking about getting the game. Amazon even has it for pretty cheap right now. For a game that released 2 days ago as of Sunday, it is already down to $52. I think they just got a really good deal on it from the publisher. So you could buy it for less than a digital copy physically, which is really neat. So I'm really looking forward to playing it, and I think I might sell a couple of my collectibles in order to help pay for the joystick, because I think it would be really cool with the PSVR setup. I think I would get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So I know it sounds ridiculous. It's a $200 item, but
hey, I just spent $900 on a curved widescreen monitor. You get what you want. Like, that's one of those things. We're at that age where we don't have time, but we have all the money. So buy what makes you happy.
Yeah, I'm thinking of just going ahead and doing it, because it'll sell out eventually, because it's it's a limited run item kind of thing, and a limited audience kind of thing. It's too expensive to have a ton of them in stock, so I'm just gonna buy it. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it, because what the hell. And I'll sell a couple items to make up for it. I'm actually thinking about paring down my collection, which I know is pretty unbelievable, but it's just getting to be that kind of time, I think. Except for stuff that really means something to me, I'm not going to keep it around. And I just wanted to talk about that. I haven't played the game yet, obviously. I haven't gotten it in the mail yet. I only ordered it yesterday. But I did want to talk about that, because that's super interesting that they're giving really cool bonuses away, upscaled versions of their old entries in the series, which is really neat. Which also means that I could go play 5, 6, and 7 in a row if I really wanted to. I'll probably just play 7 and then go back to the other ones. But cool beans either way. I think it'll be neat. This is a game that I wanted to talk about briefly. Y2K or YIIK, I think it's Y2K.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Y2K.
Yeah, was released and people are whining about it. Okay.
People whine about everything, so it's not like that's a surprise.
I want to talk about it, though, in this instance, because I think it's really stupid that people are whining about it, but I understand why they're whining about it. So, this game had a bunch of hype around it, and it was advertised pretty heavily. There's a lot of buzz around it, but also what they called a lot of attention to itself. So they called it Y2K, a postmodern RPG.
Yeah.
If you are doing that,
like, I don't know anything about the game, but that just sounds pretentious.
Yes, that is exactly right. So you are already First of all, you are already putting up your game on a pedestal, and if it truly is postmodern, you would just put it the fuck out. Like they did that with Hylix, and Hylix has you beat. I mean, Hylix is the weirdest postmodern thing I've ever played. You've seen me play this, Lotus, I think once or twice. It's Earthbound, but like fucked up. It's just weird.
I'm not sure I've seen this.
Okay, it is entirely done in like clay animation, and like the dialogue makes all these references to things that you can't understand and won't understand. And maybe you do if you play it a little bit more, but I played it for a good hour and didn't know what the fuck was going on, or even if I was in the right spot. But yeah, it's a very weird game. But it's only like $3, but it is worth the experience if you like weird shit, which we do. But Y2K called itself out. You should wait for word of mouth to tell people that it is postmodern and that they should be playing it because of that. But instead, they called it a postmodern RPG, so people are already like, all right, this better be fucking good. Or
I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people do now, though, is play up their thing, because in a way that's what sells a lot of things. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, if I call my game postmodern because I want people to buy it, and then people buy it and they complain, they still bought it.
Yep.
I mean, then you have the complaints about people wanting refunds, etc. But I mean, in the end, you bought the game.
Well, in that
you
sense,
fell for
though,
the advertising.
Well. They're also, though, remember the culture we're in. This is the internet without looking anything up.
There's a lot of cynicism.
I'm already falling into my own trap here. I'm not looking anything up and I'm just spouting bullshit. But
Correct.
I still bet you that 99% of the people complaining have not played the game and don't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good point, too.
And think about this. If I came up with an RPG that I was really proud of and that I thought I wrote very well, and I thought made a really good statement, and called it Vise the RPG, and in a very heady, intelligent take on the RPG genre. That's the entire...
That sounds like a fucking thesis for college.
Well, not only that, but I'm like wanking myself while I'm putting out my game. So this is the reason why I think it's getting so much flack, not its actual content. Now,
just how it named itself.
Exactly, and how it branded itself. So, as a result, it thinks it's hot shit, and and people are more than happy to take it down when people think their thing is hot shit. I mean, even Fez was really good, but Phil Fish thought he was hot shit, so a lot of people took him down.
Right.
And now he's not even making Fez 2, well, supposedly, but I'll save that for a conspiracy episode.
But he made he made a lot of other games, and they were all good games. But
sure.
Yes, he does think he's pretty hot shit.
But he thinks, I mean, he's full of himself, and he sells it that way too.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, already people are going to try to take you down because of that, even if you are good enough to rise to that level. So you know what? Just don't do it that way. There are other ways to buy in. There are plenty of other successful postmodern games. I mean, Metal Gear Solid is a postmodern game. You can't tell me that it's not.
Tactical postmodern action.
But you know what I mean. The way that the storytelling method and everything, that's why it was such a revelation at the time. So that's a postmodern game, but nobody had to say it. Nobody came out and said, they said it was tactical espionage action. That's all they said. But then they played it and people realized it was smart. Because it was smart. You don't have to tell people a smart thing is smart.
You shouldn't have to.
No. You could say a reviewer's job is to tell people that, to spread the word about it. But they also came up with that opinion on their own. I'm not going to go up to a reviewer and say, hey, this game is smart. You should say something about it. They're going to be looking for a way to say that it's not smart or not as smart as they think it is, So that's my whole take on this. I haven't played the game. Some people love it. Some people think it's pile shit. I think it's probably okay. That's what I'm going to go with, but it caused its own issue. Is what I'm going to say here. Just a couple other housekeeping items. The FrameMeister got a surprise update. This is the upscaler that Lotus and I use for our classic video game systems. This is a huge surprise because the FrameMeister is going out or is out of production. So this is a very surprising update from the company to update their firmware, and it has whole new features, and really? It's apparently going to be much more accurate and better overall with its new tool set. Apparently it has better compatibility with 4K televisions, spacing within them, and also other features that the OSSC has that I don't understand, but are apparently welcome and will make the image more accurate and cleaner.
Okay.
Which is awesome. Really surprising considering this is going to be a legacy product very soon. This is really quick, but I thought Lotus might like it. There's a Guilty Gear Anniversary Collection coming out for Switch. Did you guys see this?
No, I didn't.
I don't know about it.
I don't know much about Guilty Gear. The only game of Arxis that I've really played in depth is the Persona 4 game. Mm-hmm. And also I know that there's rumors they're going to be making a Persona 5 fighting game, and also they have been making, I know that I don't play it anymore, but when I played Grand Blue, I don't know if you remember that phone game that I used to play, they're making a fighting game for that too.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's
but
neat.
I just think it's cool. Like, I think their dedication to the fighting game genre is awesome. So it's really cool that they're releasing an anniversary collection that has like all the Guilty Gear games on it.
Well, I'll tell you what games are included. What games are included. So, it's only 2 games, but it's the only games that are necessary.
Okay.
I'll just put it out there.
It's not much of an anniversary collection, but
I know that kind of throws me off.
Well, seeing that the current game is Zerd, this makes sense. So what they're doing is they're giving you the most mature version of all of the entries. So they are giving you vanilla Guilty Gear 1 that came out on the PS1 way back in the day.
Oh, that's actually really exciting because I don't think the game's ever been really released, has it?
No, not since PS1.
Wow.
So
that's actually impressive.
That's really cool.
You get to play as Faust before he was Faust, where he was the evil Dr. Baldhead.
It may have a PS1 Classics release on the Japanese side of the PSM, but even still, this is really great.
Yeah.
And it is the most mature version of Guilty Gear X2. So Guilty Gear X2 Accent Core R, I think is what it's called.
Yeah,
so
X2 was on like the Dreamcast, but then Accent Core was like, there was Accent Core on PS2, but then the upgraded version of Accent Core.
No, there was Sharp Reload first. You totally forgot
God.
about Sharp Reload.
I don't even know if No, I think I did hear about Reload actually. Yeah.
No, that was the most popular version of the game for a really
But
long
do
time.
they have Isuka?
No.
Where you have to press a button to turn around.
None of the like goofy beat 'em up stuff.
I was just gonna say, do they have the 360 game where you run around and beat people up?
Oh no, that's totally that's Guilty Gear 2. I know it's very confusing.
Oh god,
that's Guilty Gear 2.
It's like the Castlevania collection, but do they have judgments? Like okay,
it's Guilty Gear. The fighting games are Guilty Gear, Guilty Gear X, Guilty Gear X2, and Zerd. So Zerd is, the third one, but they're being weird, like they always are.
Like a lot of Japanese naming conventions.
But Guilty Gear 2 is a completely different game that is more like Devil May Cry, mixed with a tower defense.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not good, and it's confusing as shit. So anyway, really cool that will be released on the Switch, and it's just really neat to get Guilty Gear 1, because that's a neat game.
It is pretty sweet.
And Guilty Gear, having an easily accessible version of one of the best fighting games ever made, Guilty Gear X2, is really neat. So I think that'll be really great. And I'm just going to wrap up things here with a final thing about the Robotics Notes series. We talk about these pretty often here with especially the Steins Gate arm of this. But Chaos Child was released out of nowhere on PS4 in English earlier last year. And it was a big surprise because Chaos Head, the original game, was never released in America officially.
Yeah.
There is a fan translation of it out there, but Chaos Child, its sequel, was released in English to just PS4 and Vita, I think, maybe. But it is getting a release on PC very soon, which is really neat. Steins Gate Elite is coming out pretty soon on Switch, which combines Steins Gate with the anime. There are animated cutscenes when certain things happen that follow the anime. Apparently it's integrated really well, and people like it, but I don't know. Most people have said positive stuff about that version, but usually I don't like that kind of thing, but...
It probably is a great version, but like my thing is... this is the case for any game that does this. Even like, this is such a stupid thing to bring up, but the Yu Yu Hakusho fighting game on PS2, like, you're rewarded when you beat certain fights with like clips from the anime. It's like,
yeah, but I've
watched the anime. Yeah, like, that's why I'm playing this game.
Yeah. Well, and Steins Gate also has that that factor of like, hey, I'm reading this as a book, so I'm imagining like the certain things happening, like because of the descriptions. So therefore, you are taking the imagination element out of it.
Yeah, it becomes less of a visual novel.
Yeah, exactly, and more of an adventure game. But apparently, people like it. So
okay.
And say that it adds to the experience rather than detracts. So
that's good.
We'll see. But this is even more interesting. The Steins Gate Divergencies Assault was announced for Switch as well. So this has all of the Steins Gate side games, which includes...
like Steins Gate Zero?
Steins Gate Zero is the most prominent one, which is really cool. So that already has an English release on PC and PS4 and Vita, I believe, as well. But it also includes two other side games that we do not have in English yet, and this is a Japanese release that was announced, but I very much doubt that these games wouldn't come because every one of the newer releases in the series has made it over now. So I would very much doubt that this game wouldn't come over too, because it's very popular now. So this would be Steins Gate Darling of Loving Vows, and Steins Gate Linear Bounded Phenogram.
I think I've heard of that.
So they're probably more than likely kind of dating Sims based off of the characters, or a side story that doesn't count as much, but it's still cool to get that kind of stuff, especially when Corpse Party is doing that right now with the Corpse Party releases. A lot of the guidance stuff is coming out.
Yeah, they're releasing Hysteric Birthday, which is ridiculous.
So this is cool stuff. I'm very excited to get a lot of these, and I think Robotics Notes Elite is coming to the United States too. So that's one we don't have in English at all. That's so we'll have entries from all of the series eventually, probably this year, which is really neat. And all the main series. So it's Chaos Head, Robotics Notes, and Steins Gate are the three tent poles in this series. Now they're not all related. Like apparently each of these main games can be played independently of each other, and even the sequels only carry over certain references. They're self-contained. So you can play Chaos Child without playing Chaos Head, for instance. You won't get every single little reference, but they're pretty self-contained, and you'll be all right. You won't be confused. So I think they investigate 2 different murders. So it's 2 different investigations, so you don't need to know what previously happened. But still really cool. I mean, apparently these games are some of the best visual novels ever made, which is really neat. I'm looking forward to playing these in a palatable format. I've actually been waiting until these games get English Switch releases, because that's how I play my games, and I think a visual novel probably plays best portably anyway for me. So I'm waiting until they all hit the Switch. So I don't know if you guys have any commentary on that, but I think it's pretty cool that we're getting all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of visual novels that I really need to play. Like, I'm currently playing 428 Shibuya Scramble, which is like...
I need to get that.
That game is fucking gold. But, like, I still need to play... And like any of the things you've mentioned from Robotics Notes, I need to play Steins Gate. I need to play Steins Gate.
I haven't played any of them, but I'm excited that we have them.
Yeah, like there's Chaos Child. There's the Silver Case. Like there's definitely.
Yeah, I haven't played those yet either.
Like these are all these top tier things that if you ever play a visual novel, this is the one. So I gotta play a lot of these.
Okay, well, one really quick announcement too. Please buy the physical copy of Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes for Switch. It does come with the DLC included.
Oh, that's cool.
One last thing that I wanted to say. So your fears about season pass tomfoolery aren't really present in that version of the game.
Hooray!
So anyway, we should wrap up because we're a little over here. So that is the show for this week. We covered a lot, and I'm very happy that we did. A lot of cool stuff that we talked about here. We want to thank all of our fans that contributed quite. I don't know what that is for Thursday.
Now I'm confused.
Oh man, I am out of it. Jeez, man. So anyway. That is the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Now I have the right script. Well, there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, I recently started uploading Binary Domain, actually, that's a fun one, or even get in on a conversation on Discord with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon accounts, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloud08540 on most gaming, social media-ish type like platforms.
Okay. Well, we will catch you on Thursday, everybody, for Corrective.
Until next time, everyone.
See y'all.